Hello Divine Souls, and welcome to my channel, Journey of Soul Mastery. I am your host, Rebekah Cortez. If you're new to this channel, the emphasis is empowerment, empowering your states of existence. And the focus of this video is toxic ego mind, blame game. So let's dive in. Blaming is a lower vibrational, third-dimensional, conditional perspective. You cannot exercise blaming without also entertaining other lower vibrational perspectives such as criticality, judgment, unaccountability, dishonesty, and reprimanding. Many people have been conditioned to seek justification or resolve through only entertaining external resources, and this too is an enormous contributor to toxic mindsets. Instead of turning the focus inward and holding self and personal accountability, most people turn the focus externally, rendering themselves incapable of exercising accountability into the picture of what is their responsibility to identify. That is a contributing factor in the way we choose to allow external conditions to affect our internal states of being. I'm speaking of the day-to-day interactions with others and the experiences we encounter that challenge us with opportunity to choose to either be the lower or higher versions of ourselves. Operating from a third-dimensional state of ego has a low accountability margin of perspective and obscures the ability to see past the surface condition to take on a deeper, more elevated perspective that leads to the deeper core behind the condition you are experiencing. The longer the pattern of deflection of accountability is perpetuated, the harder it is to change the toxic cycle of blaming. If your focus is only set on the external from moment to moment, then the higher possibility of understanding and higher knowingness is closed off. When you elevate into higher states of awareness and take on the elevated understanding, you perceive conditions that you experience from a broader perspective and in a manner that does not feed into dysfunctional cycles of negative positions in how you choose to confront the opposition being presented. You are the regulator of your own states of internal beingness. If peace and harmony is what you desire only every time you are faced with an external condition that you entertain through negative reactivity, you in that moment create negative resistance to any desirable outcome you are sending out to be manifested. You are choosing in the very moment to just keep attracting more unwanted or undesirable conditions because everything you are choosing to operate from is stemming from lower vibrational foundations, and what you invite back into your field of conscious reality will mirror those lower vibrational frequencies you are blasting out into the universe. How you negatively react or positively respond to conditions throughout your day reflects your internal focus, and that focus determines the progression of your negative or positive realities that you will experience. Focus is concentrated thought. Thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs ignite the velocity of energetic vibrational frequencies. Concentrated velocity of vibrational frequencies become existence. The third-dimensional state of perception is very conditional and ego-driven because ego is based more from the viewpoint of logic, reason, and solely relies on the immediate senses that do not account for our higher responsiveness. We have been predominantly conditioned through ego-driven imprinting to resist, discard, or reject anything that challenges or goes against the grain of conformity, logic, and compliant reasoning, which is extremely disempowering to our universal authenticity and truth. This is why it's so critical for you to open your heart center to invite conscious awareness that resonates with your higher multidimensional consciousness, which forever alters your perceptual position. It is critical during this time to shift the paradigm of resistance. Instead of resisting your lighted, higher dimensional potential, choose instead to resist the pull to remain in ego-driven states of a third dimensional conscious perspective. You cannot positively resolve external negative circumstances by lowering your vibration to also react in ways that mirror the same lower vibrational frequencies that will inevitably stimulate internal negative emotional states that over time will have detrimental physical effects on your body. Even if you choose to just walk away and not reciprocate with negative reaction, this does not mean that you have peace about the situation. We must always find the balance in the way we communicate our truth and allow ourselves the right to speak our truth from a perspective of elevated response. We must remain true to our elevation of higher understanding and remove the element of pettiness. You will remain closed off from your higher abilities of perception and awareness when you are so grounded into ego that your perspectives do not stem beyond that spectrum of ego. To accept that truth, that you are capable of more than a third dimensional perspective of consciousness. Ego feeds off ego, and pettiness is like rich manure to the ego and only nourishes more lower vibrational tendencies. Transmuting lower vibrational opinions into higher perspectives. Opinions are based on an internal position of assumption. People assume way too much and often are driven to assume the worst about themselves, others, and life itself. Instead of merely asking questions for the sake of gaining answers, insight, and understanding to elevate perceptions, people have chosen to silence themselves and just feed into the vortex of perpetuating negativity and separation, and have placed themselves as a collective in a position of internal resistance to operating within the elevated spectra of unconditional states that promote love, unity, and community within the art of relating. It can always be argued that there isn't much good to see in the world and in people, but that, my friends, is a disempowering mindset stimulated by all the fear conditioning we have been subjected to. If you take the internal stance that there is no beauty and wonderment in the world, then you will condition yourself not to see it, even if it's right in front of you. Or even worse, when you see beauty, you will not accept it for face value because you have conditioned yourself to not trust anything and will act in a manner that seeks to discredit it for the mere sake of proving magic, wonder, miracles, and beauty don't really exist to reinforce your own egoic position and mindset. This is a very vicious internal cycle that will never promote peace and over time the passion for life, the connection to any purpose, and a life filled with meaning that creates fulfillment will diminish. Humanity has been living in disempowered states for so long, and it's time for the Great Awakening because the frequencies pouring into the planet are intensifying and forever altering your dormant states of universalness within the consciousness of us all. We all must choose of our own free will to elevate our perceptions to conscious states that accepts higher wisdom, higher insight, higher knowing. That is all of our responsibility to do and honor that elevation, no matter the conditions we face that might be in opposition to that lighted position. You cannot control what others choose of their own free will to do. However, you can control how you respond or react to conditions you face. You can also control what you attract into your field of reality to experience. There are numerous ways this pertains to our day-to-day lives. The conditions that are our responsibility to change are the positions of internal focus. If you're over-focusing on the negativity of any condition or circumstance, then you are setting yourself up to become consumed with resistance, and you will succumb to that resistance by reflecting lower vibrational reactivity back. This is where the element of choice becomes paramount. No matter what the escalation of opposition entails, you always have full authority to determine the outcome of your position, not just to the immediate internal or external challenge, but with your overall perspective of self and life. You must choose in every moment of opposition you face to either honor your highest potential or lower your position to reflect the lower vibrational position of the other elements involved. Life is just choice. It's that simple. Ego tries to complicate things, but the truth of a higher perspective is that it is within all of our ability to resist the pull to remain in states that suppress our highest potential, because our highest potential already exists within us. Our resistance or willingness to the metamorphosis of growth and expansion determines when the gateway of our highest potential is set free to be experienced and expressed in limitless ways. We must be willing to know, even in the darkest of times, that our highest potentiality is and has always been ever present. When we take the smallest steps towards altering our lower vibrational opinions about ourselves, we will initiate the seeds of light within our hearts to awaken, and we will activate our hearts that empowers us to feel a deeper seated worth, value, and love for self, others, in the world. We all must resist the pull to remain in states of shallowness and stagnation with our growth and expansion, and start asking the deeper questions about ourselves and what our journey has been to elevate into a state of non-resistance, to reveal the deeper meaning to challenges, conditions, circumstances, and encounters we face both internally and externally. Exercising the element of pause in any moment you are experiencing lower vibrational conditions, encounters, negative thoughts, negative emotions, and physical sensations of stress, anxiety, exhaustion, external confrontation, takes a willingness to surrender lower opinions and elevate perspectives of consciousness to reflect the acceptance that we are divinity incarnate, and we are all capable of more than what we allow ourselves to be the majority of the time. Disempowerment breeds focus that propels energetic velocity to manifest the unwanted and undesirable, that perpetuates states of unfulfillment and lack of insight to perceive higher purpose in self and life. Identify the toxic mind game of blaming. If you swim against the current, you will get exhausted over time. Look at avoidance and resistance as swimming against the current. If your focus is set on avoiding and resisting change on any level, then you will become exhausted with the process of transformation. There is always a lighted internal reason why you have negative external reactions or why you resist change that can be traced to a fear and a memory or series of memories and experiences that induce that fear. It is your responsibility to observe your internal positions and states of being. You must first be the stewards of your own life and tend to the internal gardens that require nurturing and exploration. Your focus needs to be on how you can transform yourself internally and elevate your own perspectives into states of consciousness that transmute conditional into unconditional. You must let go of the need to be so controlling, critical, judgmental, and unaccepting of self before you can extend that to others from an elevated perspective of higher consciousness. You are either choosing states of resistance to elevating your expansion and ascension, or you choose states of willingness and acceptance to elevate your expansion of consciousness and ascension into higher states of universal connectivity. The consciousness you operate from has everything to do with the ability to expand into flow states of willingness and less resistance to expansion and ascension. Too often you hear people stating words of disempowerment. I state it that way because these lower perceptual mindsets perpetuate disempowerment. People state these things because they are still feeding into the falseness of powerlessness. You can't experience the warmth of the sun's energy and the radiant light hitting your skin through thick clouds just as much as you can't experience your universal consciousness and the radiance of your universal beingness through the thick shadows of ego. Here are some examples of lower opinionated biases that stifle elevated perspective and stimulate the illusion of powerlessness and perpetuate states of disempowerment. If he or she didn't do this, I wouldn't have done that. If he or she didn't say this, I wouldn't have said that. If he or she didn't make me feel like this, then I wouldn't be so miserable. If he or she would just change, I wouldn't be so unhappy. If this didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be the way I am today. If that person wasn't in my life, I would have had a fighting chance at something better in my life. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't be such a mess. If the trauma of my past never happened, I would be a confident person, stronger person, trusting person, loving person. I would be all the things I see in others that I can't be because I experienced that trauma. How many of these resonate with you? How often do thought processes like this enter into the picture that influence the way that you react and or respond to things that you face throughout your day-to-day? Instead of clinging to these lower vibrational patterns, ask these deeper questions instead. What am I avoiding internally at my core that is the root cause of this negative external reactivity to this condition or experience? What is the source of my resistance? What am I so afraid of? So let's talk about the solution. What is the solution? 1, accountability. 2, responsibility. 3, honesty. 4, stop giving your power away. At some point, you must decide what is serving your highest potential and let go of everything that is not resonating with the desire of fullest desired potential. If you stay committed to blaming external sources for the state of your existence, like the example stated earlier, then your past will always be the dictator controlling your existence from the lower perspective of ego. You must become your own liberation and allow your universal self to lead you into empowerment and forever alter your future realities of existence. Stop infecting your consciousness with the virus of blame and take responsibility for the person you are choosing to be today. Your past is dictating the present by your unwillingness to accept your own powerful universalness. You have identified yourself according to the conditions and experiences of your past as being what defines you as an individual, when what you need to strive to do is shed all the falseness that doesn't serve your happiness and potential by redefining yourself according to the individual you want to identify yourself as being now in the present, and amend all internal states that are in opposition to that reclaimed identity. Allowing the wise stance of being an observer of yourself, others in life, is extremely beneficial to gaining a higher perspective. When you are allowing yourself to operate in higher states, you approach life from a position of observance, so you can exercise the element of pause and elevate your position into positive responsiveness to life's conditions. Higher states of perspection will always turn the external circumstances back to an internal state of observance for the sake of growth and expansion. Exercise accountability, honesty with self, and accepting responsibility is what is yours to regulate in any condition, circumstance, or experience. And you must stop at some point believing that you are powerless and that all these external conditions of ego-driven agendas have control over you. The only control anything has over anyone or anything is their compliance to participate in the program of fear. The toxic blame game distorts your truth and power. Ego is in pursuit always of taking the focus of accountability off self and attaching that blame to anything external to define external reactions and behaviors to justify the lower vibrational nature that creates the basis of your attitudes. You must regulate the pull to operate from ego and stop making all kinds of excuses to why you are not willing to follow your heart, which is the pathway to elevated insight and intuitive guidance. The song of your soul is heard within the heart, and your universal self in the non-physical realms of dimensionality is in unconditional service to inspiring you to be your highest, most authentic version of potential. You must always be healing and resolving falseness attached to the past that shadows your highest dimensional potential. You must manage your past from a position of love and not from a position of negative attachment. You must elevate your internal positions by restructuring your focus to transmute negative influenced opinions that trigger negative reactivity into positive responses that reflect your position of higher acceptance of understanding that promotes the flow of universal knowingness. Remaining present supports the positive position of observance and focus of openness to understanding oneself. You must remain open to accept what is your responsibility in the process of manifestation that creates your reality. A healthy practice that assists opening your heart to receive answers to deeper questions is to journal. Write down everything you were internally experiencing that the condition was triggering, and ask the deeper questions to open the pathway to follow back to the root of the cause of the trigger. Answers to triggers or negative sensations, positions of reactivity, can always be traced back to a memory that conditioned and imprinted that reactional state. You must take responsibility concerning your internal positions of opinions by asking yourself why, to get to the core of resolve that will elevate your higher perspectives. Not asking why to others, but asking yourself, why am I feeling these negative emotions? What was the source of the trigger? Why did I think that level of reaction was necessary? Why was I inundated with negative thoughts? Why did I allow what they stated or did to get under my skin so much? Most importantly, what is this external experience or internal condition trying to teach me about myself? You must constantly elevate and observe your negative reactions or resistance to conditions you face, to get to the deeper meaning of what requires healing, closure, and resolve, so that your natural ability to expand and ascend into higher perceptual states of consciousness can transpire without the resistance of ego. If life is a large mirror that reflects your frequencies back to you, then you must understand and accept responsibility for the role you play in your realities and hold yourself in strict accountability to stop playing the blame game. The most ironic game people try to play is lying to themselves, but you can never lie to yourself, which makes it a toxic game to even try to play. You need to focus your attention on ending the lie within by committing to the path of honesty and applying accountability. You must elevate your willingness to accept what is your responsibility to regulate, and most importantly, what is not yours to regulate. You must turn your focus inward and stop trying so hard to change everyone else and focus more energy on what your responsibility is in the expansion process of self-mastery. Pointing the finger at everything else is not going to offer you peace of what requires your own focused attention within yourself. To see the world through elevated eyes, you must let go of all you dislike and stop over-focusing on what you dislike about everyone and everything, especially yourself. If you want to elevate your existence to align with desirable and fulfilling realities, then you have to stop participating in perpetuating resistance. Stop talking about it, stop gossiping about it, stop over-focusing on everything you don't want or don't like, and elevate your focus and participation to promote flow and alignment with the wanted and the desirable. Elevate your ability to connect with the sacredness of self, and you will begin to experience the sacredness within all. Thank you for listening. If you found the information to be helpful, please share it with someone who you feel can benefit. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to show support for this channel, and click the bell to receive future notifications on upcoming videos. Bye for now.